Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the BEDROT podcast, a podcast where we discuss the realities of living with invisible illnesses and disabilities. I'm your host, Punkster. For anyone here is their first time watching, I am a Twitch streamer who does a lot of invisible illness and disability advocacy, but I also do a lot of gaming too. So for today, I have a guest here with me. So this is my partner, Mr. Punkster. We've been in a relationship for 6 years as of yesterday. We're actually celebrating our anniversary today. We've done other things. It's not just the podcast. But we are going to be doing a podcast episode for you guys today discussing our personal experiences while living in an interabled relationship. This is something that a lot of people have requested, as I do tend to talk a lot about him and kind of like our relationship while being this sick. So I guess maybe just introduce yourself.
Yeah. What's up? I'm Mr. Punkster. Footnote is I'm a nerd at my heart. Big fan of Legend of Zelda. Grew up on it. That's kind of like defined my personality, I guess. But I don't know. I like the arts. I do like did a lot. I went to school for acting. Ran a theater company. Got into marketing. I do like branding stuff. I play D&D pretty much every week. I'm a forever DM, but I like being that. I like the control and I like being engaged all the time. And then building the world and stuff. And the other thing I do is play. I do three things, really.
Yeah.
The third thing I do is just play drums. I'm in a band, do music stuff. And Punkster's hubby,
Yeah.
which is the best. So
Yeah. So I guess before we get into what we're going to be talking about, do you want to kind of tell them like how we started dating?
All right.
You want to tell them the story? Because not everyone watching, a lot of people from the community kind of already know our story, but for those who don't know.
Yeah. So from my perspective, in a chapter of life where like kind of given up, you know, on
both of us,
on all that, yeah,
both of us were giving up,
and just like wasn't working, whatever. Swiping on Bumble as a person would do, and I see this person who has like, you know, notched eyebrows, like tiger tattoos, is just like half shaved head. I'm just like, I remember I was sitting in bed at like 11 p.m. So you could just imagine like a completely dark room and then my little face like lit by a phone, like at my chin.
Yeah,
and
double
I was
chin
just
moment.
Like, oh.
Nice.
But the best thing was first thing Punkster sent me was like this e-card, and it had like this person on it who was like doing this, and it just said, "Your face, I like that shit." And it was like the funniest thing ever. Like, because everyone just says, "Hey," or like they're trying to like be cool or whatever instead of just like being real. And that was just like the funniest thing. I was like, that's hilarious. What's up? And then maybe like a month later we hung out. We talked for a while.
Yeah, there was actually one night in particular that I remember being like, I was trying not to fall really hard for him, like, because I'm a romance at heart. So a lot of the times I would really start getting to know someone, even if we hadn't like gotten on our first date yet. Like I would start being like really interested in them just based off of like certain interactions during texting and stuff. And he was texting me one night on St. Patty's Day. And I remember he was just like, "Oh my God, Punk, are you kidding me? Like, you're beautiful." And I just was like swooning. And mind you, I was like really wasted. So like that was definitely contributing. But I was like on an Uber ride home, completely wasted, looking at that text message, like nonstop rereading it over and over and being like, "Oh my God, he thinks I'm beautiful." And like lost my mind. And like, so I was like super eager for our first date. And then our first date happened.
Yeah, first date happened. Picked Punk up. She looked awesome. We went for a walk, got tea, and I don't know, we just like hung out for like hours and talked, and it was just really nice. Like I don't know, you just feel an energy with a person where like you don't have to put up a front, or you don't even feel nervous because it just feels so comfortable immediately, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just talking to her about what I do. She was talking to me about what she does, and then did we watch Monsters Inc. as well that day?
No, it was Toy Story because that was your. Oh, I think we watched both. Actually, he's right. He's right. We did because we watched Toy Story first.
Yeah.
And then we watched Monsters. I don't know if it was Monsters Inc. or Monsters University.
But either way, it was like great first date. And then I don't know, we like made it official 2 weeks later and said like I love you like within the month.
Yeah. So I am that stereotypical person where I know it's super cliche, but like I knew after the first date that like that was it for me. Just based off of even like our first interaction, because like no one had treated me the way that he treated me on a first date. He like walked up to the door, like knocked on the door, picked me up at the doorstep, gave me this huge hug. Like it just like I immediately felt so safe with him. And so I was like, this feels different, you know? And then he didn't kiss me until he walked me, and this is a funny story too. He didn't kiss me until he walked me back at the very, like, right before I went back in after our date. And I wasn't used to that. Usually people in my past experiences like make the move while you're on the date. So I was in my head being like, oh, maybe he doesn't like me as much as I thought he liked me, and why didn't he kiss me? And so he went to kiss me like right when I was about to leave, and he said later on that my eyes widened and it looked like I was scared.
Yeah.
But it was because I was so in shock because I was not expecting it. But yeah, he kissed me, and then, you know, after that I was like, I went in and I told my mom, I sounded insane. I know my family was like, "Oh my god, what are you talking about?" But I was like, I think this is the person that I'm going to marry, and they're like, you know, but that was it. And then yeah, that next date we were like, "You want to make our anniversary or the day of our first date, because I'm not seeing anyone else. Are you seeing anyone else?" "No." "All right."
Cool.
And then that was it. Yeah.
Super. So what was different for me was I'm the same way, where I'm like a huge romantic and I overinflate everything. And but with you it felt different because it felt very like down to earth and like very rooted and very like, rather than like rose colored glasses and like a cloudy, bloated is the wrong word, but like this like lifted, over exaggerated feeling. It felt more factual. I was just like, oh yeah, she's one.
Yeah.
Like it just felt, I don't know, like an obvious thing.
I was definitely like both, because it was like I'm just so obsessed with romance, and I always have been. So
Yeah.
like when I knew you were the one, I was just like, it was like that was what I had been waiting for my whole life, literally since I was like a little kid. Like I was always just like in love with the idea of love and like finding your person. So like when it finally happened, it was like I was on cloud nine. It was like this was like the moment I had been waiting for my whole life. But on the other hand, it was so different from anything else because I also felt safe and like just relaxed with you. So it's like I had butterflies, but like it was also not like nervous butterflies. It was just like, oh my god, his smile. Like it was just like little things. Like I was like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, just perfect
Yeah.
from the start. I don't know.
And then the big sick happened.
Yeah, there's about like a month of like,
Well, technically, yeah.
you being in like a remission, more of a remission state, and then you went off to work like,
Yeah, I went to
in
go move
Alberta.
to, I was supposed to move to Alberta for the summer for a job. I was supposed to live there for 6 months. And then as I was there, 3 months in, something happened. I got hit with like some sort of flu or something. And then I went to the hospital. They treated me, and then I just like never got better. And that's when a lot of my symptoms started happening. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I was texting him like, and we would FaceTime a lot. And I was saying like, I feel different. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I would break down. And he was the one who was really pushing me to be like, maybe you should come home. And I'm not just saying that because like I miss you, but like I'm saying that because like you can barely handle work, you know, like maybe you should come home. And I was like, no, you're right. And like it devastated me because I had wanted to be there so bad. But anyway, so yeah, like we only really had like maybe 3 months of like before everything started happening where things were quote unquote normal. And it was a very progressive thing too. It's not like I was as sick as I am now when I first got sick. But that's when we kind of had to start having a lot of like talks, and it was like I had been sick my whole life. So like for me, I wasn't a stranger to like having to go to the doctors and whatever, but for him, he's been healthy his whole life, and you know, you've never been with anyone else who has had like chronic illness or anything like that. So for him, it was like a first of like experiencing any of these things just like vicariously through me. One of the things that I did want to like ask about is like, how did you feel, and like what were your thoughts as like when I first started getting sick?
When you first started getting sick, like my world of you get sick as you get better.
Yeah.
So I think like you explained to me, you're like I have chronic illnesses, and like there was the ankylosing spondylitis, which went into remission. So I think I was like, well, she'll come out of this.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll even like take 6 months.
Yeah.
Like that was my thought in the beginning, like, oh, like give it 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Based off of what you described. But then like,
I mean, to be fair, I thought that too, right?
yeah. And then 6 months goes by and it's like, you don't get better. In fact, you get worse. I'm like, okay, how about another 6 months? But I'm also like very much like, okay, well, what's the solution? Like, you can fix anything kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And one of the hard shifts early on was like learning that some things can't be like, sounds almost sad to say, but some things like can't be fixed.
Yeah.
Or at
No,
least
that's a
like,
reality.
or at least like I don't have the means or the tools or the control to, maybe it's more of a control thing to control like the situation to get you to like be better,
Yeah.
you know? So that was one thing, was just kind of like being like, because me pushing for solutions in those situations where like there isn't a solution to be found in the near future kind of thing, like
Yeah.
doesn't make you feel good.
No. So that's
Um,
actually something that I wanted to mention too, like on that topic, is Mr. Punkster has always been, and he's gotten like a lot better since I've gotten sick and like, over the last 5 years. But he is very much like I don't want you to suffer, so I want to fix your problem. So he's just like solution mode. And obviously as someone who's chronically ill and like knows that, like you said, like not everything can be fixed, especially this sort of stuff, and things take time and whatever. Like, it was very frustrating. Like, even though it was good intentions, like it was very frustrating just having someone constantly just like trying to fix it when it's like just a situation where like I just wanted to vent and like just be like, this fucking sucks, because
yeah.
it sucks. So that was something that we really had to work on together. That there was no pushback or anything. Like, we didn't have any problems when talking about it, but I did have to kind of tell him, hey, I hear you and I appreciate what you're trying to do, but you have to understand that there are moments where I don't want solutions. Like, I just need to vent because what I'm going through is hard. So he had gotten to a point, it's kind of like this unspoken thing now where you actually know when to do that and when to
Yeah.
not. But for the first like year, I would say he would kind of be like, do you want a solution or do you want to vent? And like he would give me the option, which was super, super helpful for me. And I appreciated so much, because a lot of people don't understand the difference of someone like just wanting to vent, especially in these circumstances, and like being like, I need help and I need solutions.
You're also like, you have the ability to fix your own problems too. It's not like some knight or person needs to come in and like swoop in and like fix you
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I think like maybe it's true or maybe it's not, but like having that person who's like, well, I want to fix this for you. It's like, no, I just need a moment to like feel what I feel and I can work on this, or like I can handle this. Cause like the second part that comes after that was like, okay, learning when to just like support you and be like, I'm sorry that sucks. But then what I would start to do, because I'm a very empathetic person, was like take on, like feel like I'm taking on the burden of like your emotions, or like I would feel your emotions of like you're in a shitty situation and you're feeling sad or down or in pain or whatever. And it would like bring me down.
Yeah.
Or I guess bring me down is the wrong word or the wrong way of phrasing it, because it's not like it was without my control. Like I chose to be sad with you kind of thing. Where it's
Yeah.
like, well, if you're down and you're laying down or whatever, like I'm gonna lay down with you and like I'll lay for an hour. And like maybe sometimes that's nice, but the second conversation we had about like how to be a supportive partner in those types of situations was about you explaining to me like you being sad, or you when I'm in pain or when I'm sad, doesn't help me feel less sad.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, sometimes I just get sad because I feel like I'm holding you down or back or having a negative effect on you with something I can't control.
Yeah.
And that sucks for me. So the second thing, I guess, like I came to learn or like work together with you on was being there for you without taking on weight that shouldn't be mine. Like, do you
Yeah.
know what I'm getting at?
No,
Like,
100%.
because I still have stuff to do. I
Yeah.
still have like a life to live. And like something I appreciate you for was, and you spoke and we talked about, was like, you never want to hold me back from doing the things I feel like I want to do,
Mhm.
which is like awesome, obviously, because I think really nice people like you or like me, like want to put the needs of others first before ourselves. But you telling me like, no, like you're a person, you have friends, you have hobbies, like
Yeah.
you should still do those things, even though I need to like hang back and be
And you
in
know
bed.
what's funny about that is that's actually something that I learned while being sick. Is like, I learned the importance of like when you know you need to be selfish rather than selfless, because like you said, like we're both very selfless, like empathetic people, so we are almost like people pleasers at
Yeah.
heart. So we both have habits of like giving ourselves too much to other people and not enough to ourselves. So when you get sick, naturally you need to start taking more time for yourself and putting yourself first so that you can be healthy and support other people at the same time, like to the best of your abilities. But you do have to put yourself first. So I feel like I taught you that because of that.
Yeah.
you know?
I think overall what helped like the early days was like in those like situations where like we could have had arguments or we could have had like a lot of friction was
Yeah.
like between you and I in the relationship was like you were really good at communicating what you needed.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's because you've done work like on your mental health and stuff beforehand, and like know your emotions and you're really emotionally intelligent. So like those conversations were a lot easier because of where you were coming from,
Yeah.
and it put me in a position to like be better equipped to like adapt to what would make the situation as like as best as possible.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon that you kind of said like earlier on was talking about how like us both being sad together. I think it's really important that like to tell other people that like it's about the moments where like you've kind of gotten better at knowing when like we need to be sad together, and when I kind of am doing like not in a good place and you feel like you need to be that support system. Like I feel like both is super important. I feel like it's important to have that like strong like shoulder to cry on at times, but it's also important to recognize that like if you're in an interabled relationship, like the things that you go through are going to affect your partner. So you need to feel your feelings too. Like
Right.
what I go through is hard on you because you're watching someone you love go through something hard that there's nothing you can do to help. There's like little things you can do, but like you can't suddenly make me better, you know? So you kind of just have to sit and watch me struggle. So it's important for you to feel like have days where you've told me like I'm having a sad day and I go, "Okay, like that's fine. You know what? Let's talk about it." And then we talk about it, and even though there's no solution, like at least you're communicating and getting it out, and it's like a safe place to do it. Rather than holding it in and then bottling it up and then you end up like breaking down or whatever, like
Yeah, because when you bottle it, like sadness turns to resentment. You know, like the emotion changes. So like that's why I think it's really important to know like where you kind of have to draw the line on like what you take emotionally, like what you take emotional responsibility for.
Yeah.
Because when you draw that line, you give someone the space to be emotional within their space. Because if I got sad because of like you're having a really bad pain week or 2 weeks, but then you like really took on my sadness and made it your own as well, then like that would then make me sad, like kind of thing. So like it can become this vicious sort of ping pong where like emotions can get out of hand if we keep adopting and taking responsibility for how the other's feeling instead of like you say, like, okay, you're sad, like let's talk about it, I'm so sorry and I'm here for you. But like it's kind of like a balancing act between those. I'm here for you, but I'm not gonna take on responsibility for how you're feeling, you know?
Yep. So on that note, I also wanted to ask, like, how do you think my struggles have affected you?
You do a really great job of not letting it affect me. Like to be honest, like you kind of go out of your way to like make sure it doesn't affect me. Like you'll take on like if you're having a really bad week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and you're like feeling depressed, like you'll try to make it be okay because you don't want it to get to me.
Yeah, I do that.
Like you'll
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like not masking in a way, but like
No, it's not masking. It's just I want you to be happy. And I know I can break down when I need to break down too. But I also don't want to feel like I'm doing that all the time because I know you're trying to provide for me by working hard.
yeah, and you do the same, right? Like within your own like capabilities.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest though,
Yeah.
like your invisible illness like hasn't really affected me, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Okay.
I've adopted or changed like my approach to like having emotional intelligence, I guess, about those situations, right?
Yeah.
Like what we've already talked about is what's changed, but when it comes to like my lifestyle, the biggest things honestly is not even like between us. It's more like just dealing with other people's perspectives of the relationship and like other
Yes.
people's opinions or like
Yeah.
because the thing that comes up the most is just having actually there's a classic example that really pissed me off where I was at someone's wedding and there's a few examples that piss us off, but
Yes.
but the one I'm thinking of where I got really heated for the first time was at a person's wedding, and I was standing in their wedding and on so for the groom, and then on the bride's side, like I was paired with a bridesmaid, and
Yeah.
I was talking to that bridesmaid at the dinner table, and they were like, "Oh, where's Punk?" I was like, "Well, she's not feeling great. She wasn't able to come out to the wedding." And the person whose wedding it was, like, this was like months later, just
Yeah.
like very briefly, they're like, oh yeah, like that person, that bridesmaid said that your answer felt really rehearsed.
I remember that.
And I was
Oh, that
literally
was so
like,
long ago.
bro, like, I don't know, it just pissed me off because if you're rehearsing something, then then it's not real.
That was the first time I think you had ever really been asked and like been in that situation. I think like you were just trying to make sure you were like standing by me in the right way and like,
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
Because if I just say, oh, she's not feeling well, why? And then that's when you start to explain. That's where like some of the things like we talk about comes in, and I explain, oh, like she has chronic illness, she has like AS, and she's developed these other symptoms, and like, you know, there's this whole story involved, and like, but it is a story, and it's a story I've told like quite a few times to people now. So maybe it sounds rehearsed because I've told it a lot, but rehearsed equates to me in that situation like it's an excuse. Which invalidates what you're feeling and like your situation. So that's why it pissed me off. Other than that, like if I just think about like one-to-one, how it's changed my life, I mean, like it hasn't. Like I still do the things I love. I still hang out with my friends. I still have hobbies. Like I still vacuum the fucking house. And we share responsibilities. Like it's literally like any other relationship.
Although I will say that you do tackle on more because I do less now. Like there's less things that I can do. Like a lot of the times, like you'll go out and do groceries for me or something, or like you go pick things up for me, you know? But so that you don't think that's like affected you in any way?
Like no, because like I would do those things anyway, just because I love you. Like if you if you're healthy and you're like, can you just go? Like, well, that's what I'm trying to get at is like being with you and like you being disabled, like everyone has problems. Or baggage or things that prevent them from doing certain things in life. And I just love you. Like it's not something where I'm like, oh, I have to go pick up groceries. I mean, like I'm a human being. I have to eat food, of course. Like it's reasonable for me to go pick up groceries. Nothing has changed about the way I live my life that feels or is unreasonable. Like there's no huge sacrifice or like I'm happy to take care of you. Like I don't know. Like
no, that's a good answer.
I like if I was sick, like if I got sick in a week and felt as bad as you did or worse, like you would take care of me. Like it's just I love you. Like
so then let's talk about the days where I'm like you know the periods where like I've been in bed for a week. Yeah. And like it's different now because you work a lot, but in the past, like there were times where I would be in bed to the point where like I can't even get up to grab food for myself. You would bring food to bed for me, you know? So how did those days affect you?
For sure. Like on an emotional level, like it's just tough to see your partner like be in that situation. And like, again, like you feel like you just wish it wasn't like that. You just wish you were better.
Yeah.
I think it was more of my thoughts weren't like, I wish I wasn't in this situation. It was more like, I wish you weren't in this situation.
Yeah.
But like, again, like, yeah, it's more just like, it just emotionally sucks to see you suffering. Like, so you don't want to see you suffering.
Yeah. It's not like affecting you emotionally where you feel like any sort of resentment or anything. It's more just the pain of watching someone go through something really hard.
Yeah. You're not defined by your illness. It's not like your illness is like who you are. It's just a circumstance that we live with. You know, like what I mean by that is like, yeah, I guess it's this distinction of like, I've never had a thought of like, that's who you are.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's what you have to deal with, but it's not who you are. I don't get resentful because I know who you are. And like, you're this wonderful person who like makes me laugh. And like, we spend really great time together. And like, I know that's still there. There's just something preventing us temporarily from having like that experience. And so it's just something you just kind of hunker down for. Like at the end of the day, it's a decision, you know, to just hunker down and be like, I know we'll come through this. Like, I know this is a temporary time where like she's really down, but like, I know it won't be forever.
Yeah.
And
okay, well, then how about we talk about like the things that won't change? Like, you know, like whether I get into a good period or not, I am going to always be someone who like will go through periods where I needed an aid, you know? Like when I started getting to the period where I needed an aid again, like how did that affect you? Did it affect you at all? What do you have to say to people who maybe do see people differently because they have an aid, or even more specifically, like people who look like me who don't look like they need an aid but do need one.
Okay, man. Like,
Oh God, here we go.
a carpenter uses a hammer to put nails in a wall. A lifeguard uses a fucking circle thing to save people from drowning.
A lifesaver.
Yeah, a lifesaver. Disabled people need to use fucking wheelchairs to perform daily tasks. Like, it's just a tool to help you to accomplish a goal. So like, there's stigmas around the aids that like only old people use them.
Yep.
But like, if you remove that, like, well, what are they objectively trying to do? It's a tool to help you just accomplish a goal.
Yeah.
And everyone uses tools for different things every day. So this just happens to be something where they need help to do something that might be considered more mundane. Like if you didn't have an aid, then you would have less success in going out and getting done the things you need to get done. And like, people are judging you for going out and being like, no, I want to do this thing. I want to accomplish this goal, or I want to accomplish this task. And I just need this help to do it. Like, it just doesn't make fucking sense to me. And I think it's just because like people aren't objective about it. They see wheelchairs and they see walkers as, again, like, it's an age thing. So seeing a younger person, what's up?
I think I'm gonna put my glasses on because I am having a hard time seeing right now.
Sure.
Hold on.
Yeah. Cute.
Oh.
Cute.
Oh.
Much better.
Oh, I can read without my eyes adjusting a lot. Okay.
I see you using an aid as a positive thing. I mean, like, we have great Snapchat memories where like you're literally rolling down. I was about
to say he has one of his favorite Snapchat memories of me was this was around the time I needed to start using an aid again. And I was in my wheelchair, and we want, because like I can't go for walks anymore. Like longer walks. One of our favorite things to do together, and this is something that has affected our relationship a lot. But we try to make work within my limitations when I can, is nature walks. That's something him and I have always really connected with. It was the reason I moved to Alberta. Like, I love nature, but unfortunately with my limitations, I can't do that anymore because I get overexerted really, really fast. So I was like, why? I have a wheelchair. Why am I not using this? And it was because I was dealing with like internalized ableism of, oh, I'm not disabled enough to use it. And that was when I really started tackling my own, I didn't even know I had internalized ableism. I didn't know what it meant. And so I was realizing that I had it and I had to unpack it. And so it was kind of like nerve-wracking going back and using an aid again. But inevitably, like, I used it that day and I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Which is why I'm such a huge advocate for people to get aids, even if they feel like they aren't sick enough or aren't disabled enough to do it. Do it because you're actually able to go out and do the things that you want to do, whether that's a wheelchair, whether that's an like a cane or a walker, whatever makes you more comfortable, get it. Because I used it that day and I was like, we got to go for our normal walk because I was pushing myself, and when I got tired of pushing myself, he pushed me. And so there was this one hill that is kind of near the rotation that we usually do, the route that we do. And I just decided to let go, and I was like zooming down and put my hands up like I was on a roller coaster.
She still got it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's literally like one of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
And think about it. That memory wouldn't be possible if you weren't using your aid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't have happened.
No, exactly. I would have been stuck in bed.
So if you like remove the stigma about it, like, it's a tool that affords you the opportunity to have an experience. And then if you're open to having that experience and you just like accept the circumstance for what it is, and you can actually like enjoy it. Like, that was a really fun walk.
Another really good example is it's like, this is technically not an aid, but to me I see it as an aid, and that's seating in concerts, because we wouldn't have gone to the concerts that we had gone to had we not had that seating. And I was able to actually sit down and take breaks when I had to, and we still made such good memories, and it was like the best time we have together. Like,
dude, I wish you could have seen, we went to When We Were Young Fest and we saw Pierce the Veil, and we had the bright idea to be right in the middle of the crowd before they went on. And Punk is there with her walker, and then like as soon as the music started, everyone pushed forward, so it's just like her walker collapsed. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm holding the line. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
And then there was this one guy.
Yeah,
Thank
he's like,
God for him. He was like, everyone get out of the way.
Oh my God, it was
and
so crazy.
He, like, I don't know who he was, but that day, I will never forget that man because I was like,
buff dude.
Thank you. Like, because I was like, he said you could see the panic in my eyes.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fall. Like, I was freaking out.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But again, like, kind of funny in retrospect because like you had your walker. Like, it was kind of hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, so another question. What have you learned about like disability and visible illnesses while being with someone who is invisibly ill and disabled and has a lot of limitations? I feel like a big one, and I'm sorry not to like speak for you, but a big one is something you mentioned earlier, which is like other people's perceptions. You're realizing how ableist people are towards disabled people based off of interactions people have with you about me.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, yeah, because you just mentioned like, oh, she's homesick.
Yeah.
Oh, well, is she okay? I mean, like this would be the I'd be like, I mean, like, yeah, I guess like she's dealt with it her whole life, and like it's not going away. So this is the baseline. Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, like what does she have? And well, is it curable? And or people will just like, oh, have you tried this? You know,
that's what I was about to say. Is it's the unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
People inserting themselves when it's not their place.
Yeah.
Also, people having opinions when it's not their place, and like pushing that opinion onto you.
Dude, it's been 6 years of her being sick, and we didn't think to try that. You know, so I think it comes from this idea of like, well, oh, it can be cured. Oh, like my understanding of illness is that it goes away.
Yeah.
Like that's the big thing. So they give advice because they don't want you to suffer, but at the same time they assume, oh well, it could be fixed.
Yes.
Just, like, have you tried this? You know?
No, and then making you feel bad when I can't go to something, and making it feel like it's my fault or like I have a choice, you know?
Yeah.
But like pushing that on you, like you're the one who has to deal with it because people are saying those things to you, not directly to me.
Yeah.
So like, how does that affect you?
I've kind of gotten used to it. Like the big one that affected me was that first like wedding situation where I was just like kind of angry about it.
Yeah.
But I've come to learn that like people just don't fully understand, you know, like it took me time to understand what it means for someone to truly not be able to get better.
Yeah.
It takes a while for you to actually understand like what that means. And I went through that of like, it was a year of me learning what that means. Right.
Yeah.
And you like, we had a conversation where like, you just wanted to make sure and you gave me an out. Mm-hmm. You were like, listen, I have this forever. And I still didn't fully understand what that meant.
Yeah.
Even at that time.
Yeah.
You can leave if you want because this is this is not a normal situation. And I feel it can burden you at times, and I don't want you to suffer or whatever. Like you being like a goddess.
I just wanted to mentally prepare you. I didn't want you to like feel like it was all gonna be daisies and rainbows when I was like, this is gonna be hard. It's going to be hard at times to be with me, not as a person, but circumstances, like life isn't gonna be easy. Like especially because like I can't work, so like we don't have like. I work, but like it's not the same income I would be making if I had like a full-time job and was able-bodied and able to work. So like trying to prepare you for that too.
Yeah, totally. It took me, I think it honestly took me 3.5 years to fully understand what it means that you won't get better.
Yeah.
Like 3.5 years of like experiencing with like through you and with you, like what that means.
Yeah.
And why I say like 3.5 years is because I think it took 3.5 years for like that internal story of like, well, maybe if we try this or like maybe like she'll get better, right? But now I think the narrative is more like we're still trying to figure out and like understand what the source of it all is, and like every year we get closer kind of thing. Like I know you're not gonna be 100% better, and I think just by living with you, like I understand what life feels like to have this circumstance on our relationship. So it just took time to learn to like what that truly means, you know? Yeah. And it's not something you can understand until you just literally experience it.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the other thing to learn is just like, it makes me value my time with you a lot more. Because I don't know when your next crash is going to be. So like when you have a good day, like the good days are really great.
Yeah.
And the bad days aren't worse now that like I'm more emotionally intelligent about the circumstance.
Yeah.
Like I think the good days become great and the bad days are just bad.
Yeah.
Or like it's just I know that. So
Yeah.
I you know how they say like distance makes the heart grow fonder or whatever? I think like it's not the same as in distance away, but it
Yeah.
is like it feels like distance from like the full potential of like how we could spend a day together, you know?
Yeah.
And so I like a day like today was great, you know, and
Yeah.
like it makes the memories sweeter.
Yeah.
I don't know, like
It's cherished more.
yeah, like in a weird way, like I cherish you a lot
Mm-hmm.
because of like what we've worked through
Yeah.
and because of like those struggles, you
Yeah.
know, they're hard, but a great time. Like you can't have the light without the dark,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the light really shines and it makes me just love you more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is a very taboo conversation. I don't know how we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it because it's a really important aspect of a relationship, and that is sex. Obviously, our sex life has been impacted because I have something that basically depletes my energy very quickly with basic everyday tasks. So obviously for the average person, they can have a 12-hour day and not, they'll feel fine, and you can have sex at the end of the day and it doesn't feel like this like task, it doesn't feel like this big task. But for someone who is physically limited, there are a lot of days where I just can't because I just don't have it in me. And obviously when it comes to sex, there are a lot of factors that come into play, like in order for it to be a good experience, and as a woman who, you have to be able to get comfortable down there so that the experience is smoother and better and you actually feel good. Because my energy is so low and I'm in pain, I'm uncomfortable, like just not feeling well, it's hard for me to have it be a good experience when, or even have it at all when like I'm struggling just to do anything that day. So I wanted to kind of talk about how we navigate through the periods where I either outright lose my sex drive or like the times where like we just don't have it as much.
I'll start by saying like distance makes the heart grow fonder. So,
Yeah, true.
So the times it happens,
It's great.
it's great.
Yeah. Yes.
But okay, so talking about like, yeah, there's times where like we'll go for a month, right?
Yeah.
And like you're going through a really hard time, and like I'll just talk about my experience
Yeah.
like with sex and kind of give context to like how I feel about sex first.
Yeah.
Which is like I'm very much, it's probably because I'm a people pleaser. And I'm talking to my therapist about it. So there we go.
Therapy.
Just started therapy.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much like when it comes to sex, I'm like, I gotta make sure you're okay and you feel good. Like that the person I'm with, like in negative times, it's like, oh, are they enjoying this? Are they okay? It's like I'm in my head about it.
Yeah.
This is just me. Like this isn't about us. This is just like my context for sex. But the root of it is like, I want to make sure you're doing good.
Yeah.
And you're having a good time. And there's no pain.
Yeah.
And whatever. Regardless of if you were disabled or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming into like this, I'll start with saying like when we do have sex, sometimes I still get in my head about it because there's times where like I'm still thinking, well, is she doing this just for me or is she doing this because she really wants to?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple times where like I'll still get in my head.
Yeah.
And I just have to remind myself and trust myself that like Punk is a person who makes their own decisions and knows their body and knows what they want.
Yeah.
And because they are saying they want to do this, then like I should trust that and allow myself to enjoy it more, you know?
Yeah. And that's the other thing too is like communication with
Huge.
sex is actually so important. Whether you are in an interabled relationship, whether you're disabled or not, like in general, baseline communication with sex is important in order to make sure everyone is having a good experience. But so when you are in your head, you do mention it. Yeah. There's been times in the past, like early relationship, where that was like something that was kind of harder to do.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that we've gotten really good at. And you specifically, you've gotten really good at is you're just like, hey, I'm in my head. And then we go, okay, well, what's going on? And we talk through it. And then it's either we just don't do it that night. And that's totally fine because it's just, it just happened and it's just not the night. Or we talk it out and then we take it slow and then you're not in your head anymore.
Yeah, and there's never any resentment, like
Yeah.
either way, you know,
Yeah.
like um I just thought of have you ever watched Jane the Virgin? So there's a quote that Raphael says when Jane asks him, like,
Uh-huh.
you know, when, like, what'd you do? Like, I went to have sex with it. And he's just like, I can't remember the exact quote, but he
Uh,
basically says, like, well, I masturbated, right?
oh, yeah.
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 But what I want to get to with this is like, everyone has their own relationship with sex, like, and
Yeah.
their own needs, right? So, like, I'm not the kind of person who needs it like every day.
Yeah.
And like, as I've gotten older, like, my relationship with sex has changed in the way of like, I'll just be like super open.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Where I used to like do that a lot,
Yeah.
right? Like in your
Mhm.
younger teen years, like,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
like into my early 20s, and like I don't as much anymore. So there's less of that, like, fiendish is the wrong word, but of like that compulsiveness to
Mhm.
do that, right?
Yeah.
So
Also
like,
proud of you for mentioning that, because that is also a very like uncomfortable taboo conversation that a lot of people don't want to talk about, is like watching porn.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and I used to watch a pretty decent amount of it, right?
Yeah.
And I
As most men do.
yeah,
Most people do, honestly, especially at that age.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so in those down, like what I'm setting up the context for is like,
Mhm.
in those downtimes, like I still have needs, and like I
Yeah.
have to meet those needs. And like, that's something we've talked about, where it's like, you don't make me feel taboo for taking care of that need on my own when I need to.
Yep.
You know, what happens in those downtimes? Like, I'll just be real. Like,
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
there's times I really want you,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
like, I've gotten it's taken time for me to just get used to being a lot more okay with like having the need not filled. And that's when like that your own relationship with sex comes in. And like, because I feel like I used to have a lot more of a compulsive need, whereas now, like, I'm feeling like I want to have sex with you,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't happen.
Yep.
It's not this like, oh, what the fuck, like, oh, she didn't want to have sex with me. It's just like,
Yeah.
like, it's a self-control thing that helps.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
where I'm like, all right, like,
Yep.
like that's like, it just has to be that decision, you know, like you have to actively decide for yourself, like, okay, it's
Yeah.
fine. Like, with the understanding as well that like, if I really, really need to get the job done,
You'll
then
get the job done.
and you understand and afford me the comfortable space to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely had a different relationship with porn when we first started dating. But again, it was because at that time I wasn't as sick as I am now, so it was very much like I felt like I wasn't enough. You know what I mean? But as circumstances have changed, like my stance on that has absolutely changed, because like it wouldn't be right for me to not allow you to feel good when I can't provide that for you in those moments. You know what I mean? So, like that doesn't bother me at all. I think it makes total sense. And obviously, I'm not going to get into it that deep, but like there are other things that I provide for you to help get through those times as well.
Yeah. And that's the
Um,
thing, like, it feels like collaborative in a kind of funny way,
yeah.
of like, if you need material to get there, then it has been provided, you know, like,
Yes.
and again, like, at the core of all of this is like just super communication. Like, if
Yep.
there's anything that needs the most communication, it's like this thing
Yeah.
when you're with someone in
Yes.
this situation. What's the word? Like, it's unique to every relationship and every
Yes.
individual. So
Yeah.
just with our situation, like, I have what I need to get it done. And like, my own personal relationship with like porn and sex is like, yeah, like sometimes I will watch it.
Yeah.
But like, what you've given me, like,
Mm-hmm.
this like rocks too. Like, I don't know. Like,
For me personally, I think I will always somewhat feel like I'm a little bit of a letdown when I say no. I don't think I could ever fully get rid of that feeling. But it's because I want to.
mm,
So for me personally, like I've always been a little bit more of like a hypersexual person. So when you become disabled and you're this sick, uh, like I said before, like you don't really get to express that as much as you would like. There's so many times where I want to, and I just know that if I did, I wouldn't enjoy it. I would be in my head. And not only that, but like it would probably be very uncomfortable for me. It just sucks because like those moments where you want to, I definitely want to, but like I just can't because of like circumstances.
Mhm.
Um and the other thing that's hard is you know, I feel like I've lost kind of touch with my femininity, like my feminine side, in the process because I don't get to express that in the ways that I would like to as much as I would like to. Um, because I do like to express that side and like that makes me feel good and it makes me feel good if you feel good and I'm making you happy.
Yeah.
So, um, that's something that like I'm still working through. Like I always feel like I'm a disappointment, even though I know it's not true. It's just a feeling, but I still feel that probably every single time that like I say no to you. And like I know logically he's okay with it, but it's just the fact that my brain starts racing and is like, oh, we haven't had sex in like a week or 2 weeks or literally a month. And I'm like, oh, but like I want to, but like I've been in a crash, like I really don't have it in me. And then I do get through that like thought process of like, maybe I should just do it. So like I want to make him happy. And then like, but then I have to pull myself back again and be like, no, because if you're doing it just to make him happy, like I think he'll feel that. And like, it's not like that's not good for you, you
Yeah.
know, that's not good for you to do. So yeah, like I'm still working through that. Like I still have a really hard time coping with that. Because it is such an important part of your relationship and like you said before, like kind of understanding where what your relationship with sex is. And so my relationship with sex is I'm a very hypersexual person. So because I don't get to express that, um it sucks because that's my relationship with sex. So
Mhm.
my relationship with sex even without him like in the picture is totally different, just like you said, like when you have that need like something's there. I don't really do that. Maybe like literally once in a blue moon, but other than that I can't because like I'm just so tired that I don't even get like the feeling of like I want to do this, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's been a really hard thing to cope with, but yeah, we the way we go through it though, like it really depends. Lately it has been a lot more like less because I have not been in a good place and there's a lot of other like little health issues I've been dealing with that make it even worse. But there's been times where like it'll be like a month of like, you know, like I'm for whatever reason I'm good and like we do it a lot more, and then it'll be like a month of not. Like
Mhm.
it fluctuates so much, which is why it is so important to have just honest conversations about it. And the other aspect of this too is like the communication um while doing it, and
Yeah.
working with your partner's limitations like physically, because not only like energetically are things different for me but like physically too. Like I can only move certain ways some days, like depending on like my arthritis and like my chronic pain and stuff, and then other health issues that kind of affect things as well. So like it's really like we have to talk it out. Like, and if something's like something that I used to really suck with is like verbalizing, like, can you stop because it hurts?
Yeah.
Usually I don't do this. Please don't do this. Do not do it the way that I did it because like literally I don't even know why I was like that for so long. But like I would just shut up and like be like, oh, it like I just have to deal with it because like he feels good. You know what I mean? Like in past relationships, not with him, thank God. But yeah, so like that's why communication as a whole is important because I feel safe enough with you to be like, that hurts. Can we try something else? Like,
Yeah.
that hurts. Can you please stop? Like, sometimes you're like, do you want a minute? Like, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And we'll just like stop outright and I'll be like, yeah, like, let's just do this or whatever. Or like, it hasn't happened too much, but there are times where I'm like, I just can't.
Yeah.
Like, and then we've stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, the communication as a whole and communication during is like super important.
Yeah. And guys, there's things out there to help you along the way. There
Yes.
are tools at
There
your
are tools at
disposal
your
to make
disposal
things
to make things work faster
or
or
smoother.
smoother.
So don't be afraid of exploring them.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes. I feel like we're kind of coming down to like the last little bit. So like the one thing that I really wanted to ask was like what sort of advice would you give to other interabled relationships about like how you can best support your partner?
The okay, the big lessons are definitely like what I mentioned about like really understanding where you have to draw the line emotionally. And this is like for life in general, right? Like it's healthy to not fully take on the responsibility of an emotion that doesn't belong to you. So there's a balance between being supportive without taking the hit along with the person. I think that's healthy. Something that has made things a lot easier is like being with someone who like doesn't demand that I limit myself as an individual. It's always a choice for me to take care of you, or it's always my choice to, maybe stay home, or it's my choice to do whatever. Like, it's always my choice. You never force me to do anything. That's a cause for resentment because it'd be taking away my freedom.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're in a position where there's an uncontrollable circumstance that takes away your freedoms.
Yes.
But you don't do that unto me
Yeah.
as a result, which I think is really healthy.
I was gonna say, I also think because like I treat it as an option, you feel more inclined to, like, in those moments where I am struggling, to be like, no, I want to help you, because like I'm not putting you into a position where I'm like, you have to put me first. Because realistically, like outside of our relationship and other interabled relationships, there are people who are disabled who are obviously a lot more limited than me, right?
Yeah.
So for those people, they might be more demanding, which is okay. But that's why, like, but there's also, with everything, there is a balance. So someone might be more demanding in the relationship of like, I need you to do this for me. I need you to be here, like do this, whatever. As long as you are giving your partner, and like not giving, that's like the wrong way I want to put it, but as long as you're reminding your partner that like you still have a life outside of this, that's important. Because like you said earlier, like you have to be able to help, like have a healthy space where you can kind of remove yourself for a bit so that you can be a better support system to me, so I might not be as demanding, but like in other relationships where they are more demanding, I think it's less about being demanding and needing things. It's more about reminding your partner that like you also have things that are important in your life outside of taking care of me.
Yeah.
And
this is why I say that like your illness isn't who you are, because like what we're talking about right now, that type of dynamic can exist in relationships where a person isn't disabled and it's not like an interabled relationship. And so that's just like,
you've been in relationships
people,
where
circumstances were way worse and the person wasn't disabled.
Yeah, but they were bossy and
so
and asked more of you. Yeah.
Learning that not to react with solutions took me a little bit, especially in the early days. And it helped that you told me, just ask me, like, do you want support or solutions? Because support is actually a solution, because they're telling you the problem I have right now is just that I need a shoulder to be on. Like, that's the problem I want to solve right now. That's the problem to solve. Be the shoulder, instead of being like, I want to fix the source. Like, sometimes you just can't. It's for some doctor who has trained 20 years on it, and you need an expert. You're just a person. So like, the best thing you could do is just, sometimes just be that support. And I would argue most of the time it's be that support. Yeah. Really.
Okay, so how do you like support me? Like, what ways do you feel like?
Just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen with present, like listen with intention. Yeah. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm like, oh, that sucks, or that's where the line of like knowing the boundary of emotions is really important, because for you to feel supported, you still need to feel like I'm empathetic toward you, but only up to a certain point. Like, that empathy can't roll into adopting it. It needs to just be like, I think it comes down to like being present with you in those moments, Yeah. Just genuinely listening. And a lot of the times it's things you've already told me, like you're in pain or you're depressed because you're not able to fulfill who you are, It's
important to like look up like your partner's like illnesses and like educate yourself on it, but like also just asking questions. Like, you've asked me, like, because I'll like tell you certain things. Like, for a long time with my CFS, I would refer to my crash as like PEM, and you're like, wait, what's PEM again? And so like I've told you a few times, but like now you know that if I say that, it means that I'm in a crash or whatever. So like really just like listening and paying attention to like vocabulary and stuff, like medical vocabulary that they use and stuff like that, so you can understand what they're going through better.
Yeah.
And like the other thing too is I feel like you're not giving yourself like enough credit, like in terms of like how you support me, because like even just in little things, like you'll ask me on your way home from work, do you need anything?
Right.
Like little things like that, where like I might have forgotten that I need something, and like I don't leave the house, so like I can't. So like every time, maybe not every time, but 90% of the time you're coming back from work, you're like, do you need anything? You'll call me and be like, just checking in, just wanted to see if you need anything before I come home. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
And those things don't take a whole lot of effort, you know?
No, but some people just don't know,
Yeah.
you know? Maybe you're just built different. I don't know.
I feel like that's something you should be doing even if you weren't disabled. Like,
Absolutely.
that's just good to ask the person you're with, do you need anything? Like,
yeah.
often what they need is what you need too. So, like,
well, there are days where you pick up my medication for me.
Right. Yeah.
Like most of the time I can't leave to pick up my medication unless I'm already at the doctor's office and I wait for a prescription. But other than that, like they're not always filled right away. So like I'll leave and then like the next day, like you'll be like, oh, I'll go get that for you.
Yeah.
You know?
It's the little things that go really far.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like just those little questions.
Yeah.
And those little just check-ins. Those go pretty far.
Yeah. Well, another way that something that's important to support your partner is going to their appointments. It doesn't have to be all of them, but like the important ones, like, or like where it's like the first time I'm going to see someone and I'm nervous and you're like, do you want me to go with you? And then you'll come with me because especially as a woman, a lot of doctors in my experience, and I know a lot of other femme presenting people experience this, is like a lot of doctors kind of look down on you and they'll interrupt you and whatever, but most of the time, like a lot of us end up bringing our partners because then they just don't question you as much or they don't interrupt you as much or they take you more seriously, which is such a bullshit thing, by the way, but is a reality 100%. So a lot of the times, like I go see a new doctor, you come with me, or if it's like a big one that's like results or whatever, like there's only been like one time where you couldn't come with me, but other than that, like you at least offer, which makes me feel like you are, like you care, you know, like even if you can't go, just you asking makes me feel like you're in my corner.
If we're like wrapping up, like those are the couple things I learned. And like the one thing I'll say is like I've had a few relationships before being in a relationship with you, and like this relationship was Jesus Christ.
Fuck, this is all right, guys. Thanks for coming to the podcast. The relationship is over.
Yeah. This is the most fulfilling relationship I've had.
Yeah.
Like, so again, it's because of who you are, not the illness that is a circumstance that you deal with.
Yeah. I've been in a relationship where I wasn't actively in my wheelchair and my arthritis was in remission.
Yeah.
But I mentioned like to my partner at the time, like over breakfast, we went out for breakfast and I was like, you know, what will happen if I end up in my wheelchair again? And he basically was like, don't you dare say that. He was like, you know, don't even mention that. I don't want to hear it. And he like kind of got cold after that. And like the rest of the breakfast, like it was just quiet. And I felt like I was in trouble or something like that, just for like asking about like, hey, by the way, like what's going to happen? Like, how would you feel? Because we never had that discussion before. So I just wanted to, you know, but anyways, thank God that's over.
There's a lot of fulfillment to be had in any experience. And you being disabled sets up the circumstances for a little more unique experiences than maybe the average couple.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of fulfillment to be found in any experience.
Yeah.
Again, like I've never experienced more gratitude for my partner in any relationship than this one. And part of that has to do with the circumstances that we operate under as a couple. So
it's been, I feel like it's also really like shown like that we are made for each other, because I mean, it is true what people say where the only way to really understand if someone is meant for you is going through hardships together and seeing how people react. And if they react poorly and they aren't in your corner and really aren't trying to support you, then obviously they're not meant for you. But if you go through literally some of the hardest things together and you're still like, you've got each other's backs no matter what, then like you're meant for each other.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
This was a lot of fun. I actually had a really good time in talking about this.
Yeah.
And
thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it, and I know a lot of other people appreciate it too. I'm sorry if we missed anything. I am having a really rough day. If I did miss anything, I apologize. I mean, we could always do another one if you guys want other questions answered or whatever. I mean, we've had a lot of experiences over the last 5 years of, you know, well, basically 5.5, if you really think about it. 5.5 years of my illness journey. Mainly, it's been like 4 pretty bad ones.
Yeah.
But like 5.5 in total of like starting to get sick and like whatever, all that stuff. So if there is anything else that you guys want to hear, please let me know. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for doing it. I appreciate
Of course.
it.
Yeah, happy to.
And like I said, if you guys want another one, just let us know. Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. I try my best, depending on my limitations and how my health is doing, to do an episode every other Tuesday. We usually do it over on my stream over on Twitch, so make sure to go follow me over there if you guys aren't already. We usually do it live over there, and then afterwards I post it on here on the Wednesday. I do gaming content is over there as well, so if you guys want to go check that out, feel free to do that. I have all my socials in the description below as well. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys go take good care of yourselves. Make sure you save up all your spoons. And I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.